She dropped the coffee mug before she realized her hands were shaking. It shattered across the tile floor of the kitchen, ceramic shards spinning like teeth. But Lynn didn't move. She stood there, eyes locked on the glowing screen of her husband's unlocked phone, breath caught somewhere between lungs and throat. The message had come in just as she picked it up off the counter to check the time. Last night was magic. Still thinking about your hands. T kiss mark. For a moment, the words didn't register. She blinked, read it again, and then the stillness broke. Keep watching. It only gets deeper. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, Lynn walked in a trance to Greg's home office, where his laptop was still open from the night before. He was out picking up takeout. She had maybe 15 minutes. She clicked through his browser tabs, email logins. Nothing. Then she opened the top drawer and found a manila envelope. Inside were photos, actual, printed photos, of Greg and a woman. Younger, brunette, petite, Tiffany Ruiz. Lynn had met her once at the company holiday dinner. She remembered the red dress, the laugh that lasted too long, the way Greg brushed lint off her shoulder. The pictures were unmistakable. Him with his hand on Tiffany's lower back. Them at a restaurant, in a hotel lobby. One where they were mid-kiss, laughing into each other's faces. Her knees buckled. She dropped the envelope and reached for the edge of the desk to steady herself, but her vision went sideways. The room tilted. A loud buzzing filled her ears. Her hands went numb. And then everything went dark. She collapsed to the floor. It may have been minutes. It may have been longer. But when Lynn came to, she was lying on the carpet, curled on her side, trembling. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps. Her heart thundered like it was trying to crack through her ribs. She tried to sit up and nearly vomited. There was no one. Greg wasn't home. The kids weren't home. She was alone, in a house full of evidence that the man she had spent 20 years loving, cooking for, defending, and waiting up late for, had replaced her. When she finally managed to crawl to the bathroom, she rinsed her face under cold water. Her reflection in the mirror startled her. Pale, bloodshot eyes. Sweat beaded across her forehead. She splashed water on her cheeks again, harder this time, like it could wake her up from this. But she wasn't asleep. When Greg came home 20 minutes later, holding 2 plastic bags of Chinese takeout, she was sitting calmly on the couch, holding the phone in one hand and the printed photos in the other. "Hey," he said, smiling like everything was normal. "They were out of the spring rolls, so I got—" She tossed the phone at his feet. The photos followed. His face changed instantly. The blood drained out. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. "You forgot to delete her message," Lynn said quietly. "And these?" "You left them in the top drawer." Greg looked at the photos, then at her. "I can explain." "Can you?" she asked, voice still soft. "Because I'd love to hear how kissing a woman at the Hilton is part of your job description." He set the food down on the counter, slowly. "It's not what you think." Lynn stood. Her legs were steadier now. "It never is it? It's always stress or pressure, or the marriage is in a rut. God forbid you just admit you're a coward who didn't have the guts to tell the truth." "Lynn, I passed out, Greg." He stopped. "What?" "I found your little treasure chest, and I hit the floor. My body shut down. Do you know what it feels like to wake up alone on the floor of your home because your husband's betrayal physically broke you?" He was silent. She stared at him, eyes full of something that wasn't tears anymore. "You weren't even here," she whispered. "You were out ordering dumplings." Greg's jaw flexed. He looked like he wanted to defend himself, but nothing came. "I want you out of this house tonight. Lynn, please, don't make me repeat myself." He stared at her a moment longer, then picked up his keys. The door shut behind him a few seconds later, and Lynn finally let herself cry. Not like in the movies. No fists pounding the wall. No screams. Just quiet sobs into her palms, in the living room, where their wedding photo still hung crookedly on the wall. Lynn didn't sleep that night. She lay on the couch, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun slowly overhead. The photos were still on the coffee table. She hadn't touched them since Greg left. At some point after midnight, she took off her wedding ring and left it next to the stack. The house was still, silent, but it didn't feel peaceful. It felt hollow, like someone had broken into her life and rearranged everything. In the morning, she brewed coffee and made waffles, just like always. Emily and Dylan came downstairs, still half asleep, arguing over the last clean bowl. Normal things. They didn't know their father had packed a duffel bag and left in the dark. Yet. Emily was the first to notice something was wrong. "Where's Dad?" Lynn didn't flinch. "He's staying with a friend for a few days." Emily frowned. "Why?" Lynn turned off the waffle iron. "Your father and I need space right now. That's all I can say for now, sweetheart." Dylan looked up from his cereal. "Are you getting divorced?" Lynn blinked. Emily gasped. "Dylan." "What?" "That's what happens when parents fight." Lynn knelt next to them. "Hey, look at me." They did. "No one's leaving you. You're safe. I promise. Your dad and I are figuring things out, and I'll tell you more when it's the right time." Emily looked down at her lap. Dylan went back to eating, quieter now. Later that day, after school drop-off, Lynn drove to the park and sat in the car for 20 minutes before calling someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Her sister. They had grown distant after their mother passed. Different lives, different rhythms, but blood remembers when the world breaks. "Marla," Lynn said as the call connected. "Lynn? Hey, wow. He cheated on me." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "Just parked. I didn't know who else to call." "I'll be at your house in 20. Don't move." Marla arrived with tissues, snacks, and the kind of tight hug that dissolves armor. They sat in the kitchen, and Lynn told her everything. The message, the photos, the fall, the silence. Marla listened without interrupting, her jaw clenched. "That bastard," she said finally. "After all you gave up for him?" "I keep thinking it's my fault," Lynn whispered. "Like I should have noticed something, or been more fun, more anything." Marla grabbed her wrist gently. "Number, don't do that. You stayed. You carried this family. You did everything right. Then why wasn't it enough? Because weak men mistake stability for boredom, and good women for furniture." Lynn laughed through her tears. "You always were poetic. You always were too forgiving." That night, after the kids were asleep, Lynn sat alone in her bedroom, staring at the closet they used to share. His side was still full. Shirts, cologne, old receipts in jacket pockets. She didn't touch any of it, but she opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out a journal she hadn't written in for over a year. The first entry was dated 2 years ago. Felt distant from Greg again. Tried to initiate conversation. He shut down. I made chicken anyway. She flipped through pages of quiet heartbreak. Small moments she had ignored. Shrugged off. Rationalized. The time he forgot their anniversary. The sudden trips for conferences. The way he started locking his phone at night. None of it hit her then. But now, it roared. She picked up a pen. I found out the truth, and it nearly broke me, but I'm still here. That has to count for something. She closed the journal and turned off the light. No tears this time, just silence. He came back 2 days later, without warning. Lynn was folding laundry in the living room when she heard the front door unlock. No knock, no text, just the sound of his keys in the lock, like nothing had changed. She stood frozen, a towel still in her hands. Greg stepped inside, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, his face unreadable. I figured we should talk, he said, setting the bag down like it was just another Tuesday. You figured, she repeated, voice flat. He nodded, glancing around. Where are the kids? School. He sat down on the edge of the armchair, like it was still his to sit in. I'm not here to fight, he began, but I think we should at least be honest with each other. Lynn stared at him. Oh, now we're doing honesty. Greg sighed. Look, I messed up. I know that. But this marriage hasn't exactly been perfect for a while. She tilted her head. You're seriously going to do this? You're going to blame the affair on the state of the marriage? I'm just saying, things haven't felt right between us for a long time. We barely talk. You're always busy with the kids or your library shifts. We don't connect like we used to. And instead of telling me that, you decided to sleep with a girl who works under you. She's not a girl. Don't, Lynn said sharply, cutting him off. Don't you dare defend her to me. Greg leaned back, rubbing his face. I'm just saying. Tiffany made me feel like I still mattered, like I was interesting again. Lynn's mouth dropped open slightly. Interesting. I didn't plan it, he said, quieter now. It just happened. 1 minute we were staying late to go over site plans. Next thing I know, we're at a bar, and she's laughing at my jokes again. No tension, no cold looks, just fun. Lynn stood very still. So, I became cold. That's what this is about. You weren't the center of attention, so you replaced your wife with someone who giggles in work meetings. Greg looked away. I'm not saying it was right, but you have to admit you've changed too. She let out a breath of disbelief. Of course I've changed. I had 2 kids. I built a home. I went through a miscarriage you barely acknowledged. I held everything together while you disappeared into your job and your ego. So yes, I changed. I grew up. Silence fell. Greg ran a hand through his hair. Look, I don't want to blow up our lives. Maybe we can figure this out. Take space. Try counseling. I don't know. I passed out, Greg. He blinked. What? 2 days ago, when I found the pictures and the messages. I collapsed, hit the floor, and no one came. She stepped closer, eyes locked on his. My body literally couldn't handle what you did to me, and you were out ordering kung pao chicken. Greg's mouth opened, then closed. I laid on the carpet for who knows how long, then crawled to the bathroom like a wounded animal, she continued, her voice steady but ice cold. Do you understand how humiliating that is? He looked down. I didn't know, he muttered. No, you didn't, she said. Because you weren't here. Because you made a choice. Not once. Not in a moment of weakness, but over and over again. You kissed her. You touched her. You lied. Repeatedly. That's not a mistake. That's a system. Greg stood suddenly. I'm not the villain here, Lynn. You've been emotionally checked out for years. I didn't feel seen. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You didn't feel seen? Then maybe you should have married a mirror. He glared at her. Fine. If you want me gone, say so. But don't pretend you're perfect in all this." "Oh, I'm not," she said. "I'm just not a liar. And I didn't blow up 20 years of family for a side thrill." Greg grabbed his bag. "Where will you go?" she asked. He shrugged. "I'll figure it out." At the door, he paused. "You're really not even going to try?" Lynn looked him dead in the eyes. "I already did. For years. While you were busy feeling invisible, I was busy holding everything together. You just never bothered to notice." He left. And this time, the silence that followed wasn't hollow. It was relief. The next morning, Lynn woke before the sun. For the first time in days, she felt something other than dread. It wasn't peace. Not quite. But it was direction. Like the fog was lifting just enough to let her see where her feet needed to go. She walked to the closet and opened Greg's side. Button-downs, slacks, ties, all hanging there like they still belonged. She stared at them for a long time, then grabbed a laundry basket. One by one, she pulled them down, folded them with cold precision. Shirts, pants, belts, shoes, cologne, the extra charger he always misplaced. Every little piece of him went into the basket. By the time she was done, the space was empty. Clean. Hers again. She placed the basket by the front door and wrote a note. "Come get your things. They don't belong here anymore." As she stood there, arms crossed, staring at the pile, Emily walked in. "Is that Dad's stuff?" she asked, still in pajamas. Lynn turned, startled. "Yeah. I didn't mean for you to see this yet." Emily looked at the basket, then at her mother, and then she nodded. "Good." Lynn blinked. "What?" Emily's voice trembled. "I heard you two arguing. I was upstairs. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard what he did." Lynn stepped closer. "Sweetheart." "No," Emily said firmly. "Don't protect me from it. He cheated on you. He hurt you, and he walked out like it was nothing." Lynn's heart ached. "You shouldn't have to carry that." "I'm not a little kid anymore, Mom, and I'm not going to pretend he's someone he's not." She reached for her mom's hand. "You didn't deserve that. None of us did." Lynn wrapped her arms around her daughter, pulling her into a long, quiet hug. They stood there for a long time, just breathing. Later that day, Lynn drove to the local donation center and dropped off half the clothes from the master closet. Not Greg's. Hers. Dresses she hadn't worn in years. Old sweaters. Blouses she bought to look wife-presentable at Greg's company parties. Gone. She stopped at a small boutique downtown, bought herself a new pair of jeans, a deep green blouse that brought out the warmth in her eyes. Nothing flashy, but it fit. That night, she sat on the couch with a cup of tea, flipping through an old scrapbook she hadn't touched in a decade. There were photos of their wedding, their first home, vacations, moments that looked perfect frozen in time. But now, she saw the cracks, the way Greg never looked directly at the camera, the way her smiles grew dimmer, year after year. She closed the book and placed it gently back on the shelf. Not out of bitterness, out of closure. At dinner, Dylan surprised her by setting the table without being asked. He didn't say anything, just handed her a fork and offered a quiet half-smile. Later, as she was cleaning up, she found a sticky note on the fridge. "You're the strongest person I know. D." Her eyes welled up, but this time the tears came not from heartbreak, but from something softer, something steadier. The next day, she returned to work at the library. Her co-worker, Janine, pulled her into the break room before the morning rush. "You okay?" Janine asked. Lynn gave a tired smile. "Getting there." Janine handed her a small wrapped bundle. Chocolate and ibuprofen. My divorce starter pack. Lynn laughed. Genuinely. For the first time in days. "Thanks," she said. "I think I'm going to be okay." And for once, she actually believed it. Greg showed up on a Sunday. No warning. No call. Lynn was trimming the hydrangeas in the front yard when she saw his car roll up. The sight of it used to bring relief. Now it just made her grip the shears tighter. He stepped out, like it was any other visit. Same jacket, same calm face. But everything had changed. "I thought we could talk," he said, walking up the driveway. Lynn didn't move from the flower bed. "About what?" Greg hesitated. "About us." She stood slowly, brushing dirt from her gloves. "There is no us." He glanced at the house. "The kids still home?" "They're at Marla's." He nodded like he was glad. "Look, I've had time to think," he said, "and I realize I screwed everything up. I miss the family. I miss you." Lynn raised an eyebrow. "You miss what you left behind. Or you just miss not being alone." Greg swallowed. "I made a mistake, Lynn. But that doesn't mean we have to throw away 20 years. "You didn't throw them away?" she asked. He stepped closer. "I thought maybe we could go to counseling. Work through it. I've already looked into a few places." Lynn laughed. Not bitterly. Just tired. "You want to go to counseling now? After I asked for it 3 years ago, and you said it was a waste of money. I wasn't in the right place then. And you think I am now?" Greg's face twitched. "Come on. We had good years." She took off her gloves. "Yes, we did. I gave you my youth, my loyalty, my whole damn self. And you repaid it with silence, distance, and eventually, another woman." Greg's jaw tightened. "I already told you I was sorry." "No, Greg. You told me you were unhappy. There's a difference." He looked down. "I'm not seeing her anymore." Lynn folded her arms. "Did you tell her that before or after I found out?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought." Greg looked around, as if searching for something to hold on to. I thought we could try." Lynn stepped closer, her voice low and steady. "You thought wrong." He blinked. "I survived something you'll never understand," she said. "You didn't just cheat on me. You made me doubt my worth, my sanity. You shattered something in me I didn't even know could break." Greg opened his mouth, but she raised a hand. "I'm not angry anymore," she said. "That's what really bothers you, isn't it? That I'm calm. That I'm not begging you to stay. That I'm not playing the part of the devastated wife so you can feel like the man who was worth mourning." Greg stepped back. "I'm building something now," Lynn continued. "Not for you. Not to prove anything. Just for me. You were part of my life. But you don't get to be part of the next chapter." He looked like he wanted to say something. Maybe apologize. Maybe fight. But he just nodded. "I understand," he said. "No," she replied. "But you will." He turned and walked to his car. As he pulled away, Lynn exhaled. No tears. No regret. Just space. Clean, open space. That night, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat on the back porch. The wind moved gently through the trees, and the sky above was clear. Emily joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "You okay?" she asked. Lynn smiled. "Getting better." "You were really strong today," Emily said. "I was really angry," Lynn replied. "Same thing, sometimes." They sat in silence, mother and daughter, 2 women who had seen the house crack, but hadn't let it collapse. Lynn looked up at the stars. She had always thought endings came with explosions, but sometimes they arrived quietly, on a porch, with a glass of wine and the simple truth that you survived. It took months, but the silence in the house eventually changed shape. It was no longer empty. It became peaceful. Lynn learned to love the sound of nothing, the creak of old wood, the bubbling of a kettle, the click of her own footsteps echoing in a home that was finally hers. She didn't replace Greg's things with anything flashy. She didn't repaint the walls or buy a new couch. But one Saturday, she did move the wedding photo, not to the trash, just into a box labeled past. She started small. A morning walk, a new book club, a haircut. At the library, she applied for a senior programming role and got it. After years of shelving, scheduling, and staying quiet, she finally stepped forward. She even started teaching a writing workshop once a week. Life after the story you thought you were writing, she called it. Women came, sat in folding chairs, told their truths. They laughed, cried, drank too much coffee, and healed, together. Her kids noticed the difference. Emily called her tough as hell in front of her friends. Dylan asked her to help edit his college essays, not because he had to, but because he wanted her opinion. Even Marla, her once distant sister, started stopping by with wine and gossip, and the kind of sisterhood they'd both missed for too long. One evening in early spring, Lynn walked past a jewelry store downtown. She paused in front of the window. There, under soft yellow lights, sat a delicate silver ring. Simple. No diamonds. No flash. Just clean lines and a small engraving. You are enough. She walked in and bought it. For herself. No one had to give it to her. No one had to promise her anything. She wore it on her right hand, not to replace what was lost, but to honor what remained. One night, long after the kids had gone to sleep, Lynn sat on her porch again. Same glass of wine, same soft wind. She looked out at the quiet street. The sky was wide and endless above her. No noise, no footsteps coming home late, no wondering, just her. And she liked that. She really, truly liked that. She didn't need a dramatic moment to prove her strength. She had already lived it, quietly, every day, in the folding of laundry, in the morning coffee, in getting up again and again, even when no one clapped for her. Some people survive in flames. She survived in silence. And now she was living. Some endings don't break you. They set you free. If you felt that too, give this story a like and subscribe. Not all heroes wear capes. Some just walk away with their head held high.